Namaskar, Shivaram Krishnan ji.
Namaskar, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Fine. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Excellent. I can see.
Namaskar, Randeep Bore ji. Namaskar.
Yeah, hello, namaskar.
Hello.
Namaste, Randeep ji.
Yeah,
This is Shivaram.
yeah, okay. Good to know, sir.
I'm sitting very close to you. I'm in Cochin, Kerala.
And I'm in Noida. Yeah, very close.
That's why I said we are very close.
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you? Namaskar, Randeep Bore ji. Namaskar.
Yeah, hello. Namaste, Randeep ji. Hello, meeting ID.
Yeah,
I'm sitting very close to you.
Harishankar ji, is it repeating or what? Harishankar ji, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Some voice is repeating. Our conversation is repeating here.
Yeah, one second.
Yeah, please share. Is it repeating or what?
It is the YouTube which was broadcasting, so don't worry. I have closed it. Now YouTube is working.
Okay, fine enough. That's good.
You can get the link in the chat which I shared. Please take from there.
Fine enough. Ritulal ji, namaskar.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So audio's working, right?
Yeah, audio is working. Anybody is having any presentation to share?
No, I didn't make one because I thought that
yeah, it's a panel
most
discussion.
people, yeah.
It's just a discussion, not requirement.
Right.
So over to Shivaramakrishnan and Prasid. Please carry on. If anything is there, just WhatsApp me, okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Harishankar.
Yeah. I'll be around. I'll come back.
Sure.
So we go live at 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
So this was just to do. So we just do a check and then we can log off and come back on, right?
Correct. You can do that.
Okay. So hi everyone else, and
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, and I'll see you at like 2:55 maybe.
Yeah.
Fine enough.
All right.
Okay.
എന്റെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിനും ഇതില്ല, ക്യാമറ ഇല്ല, പഴയ സാധനമല്ലേ. അയ്യോ, അപ്പം മാക്സിമൈസ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഇത് എക്സിറ്റ് മിനിമൈസ്ഡ് വീഡിയോ എന്നാ പറയുന്നത്. എക്സിറ്റ് മിനിമൈസ്ഡ് വീഡിയോ ഞെക്കിയാൽ വലുതാവോ? വീഡിയോ ലൈറ്റ് ഉണ്ടോ? ലൈറ്റ് അതാണ് മറ്റേ നമ്മളവിടെ ഇരുന്നല്ലേ നമ്മുടെ മുഖത്തൊരു ഇതിനകത്തേ. സാറേ ഇത് പണിയാണല്ലോ. സാറ് hello, checking. Hello. So, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. I was just checking.
Yeah.
Where is the chat box? I didn't see the provision of chat box. People were to the participants if they want to ask some questions. हरिशंकर जी मदद कीजिए कहाँ पे?
You facing some problem?
I didn't see the screen, chat. Okay, I saw. All right. That's the area because people may ask questions. I just wanted to take down
There's one chat option and also one Q&A session. Q&A.
Q&A. I think somebody has wished me. Good evening, sir. Shri Sharamurthy sir, namaskar. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Okay, no audio. Fine.
Your voice is echoing. Like you can just check if something is there.
My voice is
Generally, the voice is very low.
how do I adjust that? Where is a provision?
I think if you remove your headphones, that will be better. Like you can check that.
Is it there now?
No, it's still
It's
echoing.
still there. Speak.
Jeevan Kumar ji, namaskar. Jetani ji, namaskar. He's there.
He's asking you to check the OTP.
I'm not hearing you properly. Prasid, can you speak?
Yeah, I think your voice is fine now. Earlier it was echoing or
Echoing.
yeah. Now it is fine.
So problem is not. It's maybe with the headset.
Yeah, it may be.
If I'm audible, okay, fine, no issue.
It is fine.
Clear.
Yeah, it is very much clear now.
It's clear, it's okay.
Or are you in a closed room? I think maybe because of that reason it was echoing before.
We have to be in Prasid in the closed room, no? We can
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
We can't go to the road for webinar.
Nah, that's right, obviously.
Yeah. आपके रूम में लाइट नहीं डाला क्या? Please switch on the lights.
My room?
हाँ. I mean,
I think
little
lights
looks
are-
little.
He has to face the light.
Or change the light towards your face.
Lights are okay only. I'll just move this side.
Yeah.
I think yes, it's better now. It's better now.
Better?
It's better now.
Yeah.
प्रफुल्ला जी नहीं आए?
I'll ask him.
Hello, hello. You can say my. എത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട് കണ്ടോ അറ്റൻഡൻസിന്റെ കാണാൻ പറ്റണില്ല സാറിൻ്റെ ഇല്ല നോവേ വർഗീസ് സാർ ഗുഡ് ആഫ്റ്റർനൂൺ.
ഗുഡ് ആഫ്റ്റർനൂൺ.
കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. യാ
കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഐ തിങ്ക് വി കനോട്ട് സ്പീക്ക് മലയാളം ഹിയർ. Only we two will understand.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So good evening everybody.
എല്ലാം മ്യൂട്ടിലാണ് സാർ, മ്യൂട്ടിലാണ്.
Yeah, yeah.
ഞാനിപ്പോ അത് അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്തതാണ്.
Oh, okay.
ഞാനിവിടെ കെ സി കോപ്പറിലുണ്ട് കേട്ടോ, അങ്കമാലിയിലോ.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, yeah.
സാറിന്റെ വോയിസ് കേൾക്കുന്നത് വോളിയം ഓഡിബിൾ അല്ല, കുറച്ചുകൂടെ ഒന്ന് മൈക്ക്
കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
കീപ് ഇറ്റ് ക്ലോസർ.
സൗണ്ട് കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
ഇപ്പൊ ഓക്കെ.
ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
ഇപ്പൊ ഓക്കെ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
പക്ഷെ വളരെ ഇറ്റ്സ് വെരി ലോ ഫീബിൾ വോയിസ്.
അതെയോ? അടുത്ത് പിടിക്കണോ?
യു മസ്റ്റ് ഐ തിങ്ക് ഒന്ന് ഹലോ പറഞ്ഞു.
ഹലോ.
Maybe when you speak it will be okay.
ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
ഞാൻ ഓഡിബിൾ ആണോ, പ്രോപ്പർ ആണോ?
ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ശിവയുടെ നന്നായിട്ട് കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
ഓക്കെ, ഐ തിങ്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓക്കെ നൗ.
Okay, fine.
Hi,
Dinesh sir.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi. Fine.
Good, thank you.
Welcome
on board.
Thank you. So other speakers also have joined. They're okay with the connection.
Ritu ma'am came and she said she will join after 5 minutes.
Sure.
बाकी सब लोग है इधर, चेतानी सब, प्रभुला जी सब है. They are muted actually.
Okay.
And I think in another 10 minutes.
Sure.
ഇല്ല, ഇപ്പൊ സൗണ്ട് ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ടോ ശിവ?
എന്താ
ഇപ്പൊ സൗണ്ട് ഇഷ്യൂ ഇല്ലല്ലോ.
Sound, I think your voice is too low. Can you speak direct without that mouthpiece?
Yeah.
It is better now.
ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
If it is better now. നേരത്തെ കാലം ഒന്ന് please speak on.
Yeah.
Something.
Can you hear me? ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കാവല്ലോ അല്ലേ?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Namaskaram, Varghese sir.
I think Ajendra Singh sir, the light is less. Now it is getting fine. Yeah. Come and go.
अजिंदर साहब, आपका ऑडियो थोड़ा सा चेक कर लेना. योर ऑडियो इज येट टू बी लाइव.
Ajinder Singh ji, namaskar. Your video is not clear.
नमस्कार. अभी मेरी ऑफिस में बैठने
It is just a light adjustment can be done. It can be corrected. Just because now the camera is towards your window, outside light is in the window. Just change the direction of the camera.
No, I have to change my seat because I'm sitting with the.
Yeah, now it was okay. In between, when he switched on one light, it was coming okay.
Better
Yeah, it's
now?
fine now. It is
Yeah,
fine.
it's very much fine now.
agenda time schedule Shamada send a copy
corporate case
schedule agenda corporate case എന്നെ കാണുന്നുണ്ടോ സ്ക്രീൻ കെസി കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് കേസ്
Harishankar ji, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Jethani ji is not having audio. Please check.
He can unmute, I think. He needs to unmute. He needs to unmute. The control of audio is with Jatani Sahab only. He needs to unmute his mic.
Okay, I'll just message him.
हेलो। हाँ, कभी आती है, कभी गायब हो जाती है। ऑडियो तो कभी जब बात कर रहे तब तो आ रहे, पता नहीं अनम्यूट आपने तो अपनी तरफ से किया होगा। अभी तो मेरे को नहीं आ रही, मैं तो दूसरी तरफ बैठ गया क्या। सिटिंग ऐसी है कि या तो काम कर लो या दूसरी तरफ जाके बैठो। सिग्नल नहीं, वो लाइट बाहर से आती है तो आपके चेहरे पे पड़नी चाहिए आपकी।
Good afternoon, Prafulla sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good sir. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yes, same here. Same here.
नहीं, अभी आ रही है आवाज। अभी आई, अभी एक दफा।
Yeah, Japan Sahab also is on live.
हाँ,
He says audio is also okay now.
हाँ, ये ठीक ही है। अच्छा, अभी ये नहीं आई। आप उस पे कर रहे हो क्या, फोन पे या सिस्टम पे? अब मेरे को नहीं आ रही। कभी 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 कहीं कहीं आती है। पिक एंड चूज। मैं दूसरे लैपटॉप नहीं, एक आईपैड। ठीक है, मैं तो आपने कल इतनी जल्दी वो लेटर भेज दिए एग्रीकल्चर मिनिस्टर और किस किस को। अब मैंने वो डाटा इकट्ठा किया है कि इन्होंने
चतानी साहब आप अभी लाइव है, आपका बात सुन सकते, आप बात कर सकते हैं।
Good afternoon to all the panelists. And a special thanks to Ajendra Singh ji and Jethani ji for accepting our invitation to join the webinar and to discuss on the untapped sector of decentralized solar. Shivaram Krishan ji, we can start in another 1 or 2 minutes with the welcome remarks of Mr. Prafulla Pathak.
Shall we start, proceed?
Yeah, yes, we can start.
I can start now.
Another 1 minute. Just wait for another 1 minute. Let more participants join. Another 1 or 2 minutes. We can.
3:05. I think I'll start.
Sure.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay. COVID-19.
It's 6 minutes past 3.
Yes, we can start.
I think let's start now, because otherwise we may not be able to finish on time. Good afternoon to all participants and panelists. I am Shivram. I'm a senior member in Solar Energy Society of India, a practicing consultant by profession. On behalf of Solar Energy Society of India, I extend a warm welcome to you all for the third edition of the webinar series organized by SECI since the outbreak of COVID-19 in our country. For better clarity of hearing and viewing, I request all participants to keep your microphones muted and video cameras switched off. You may place your questions in the chat box for answering later with a mention to whom it is addressed. As I mentioned, this is the third webinar of the series organized by SECI. The first one was an all-women webinar focusing on the challenges before next generation startups. This was followed by a SWOT analysis of solar manufacturing led by Tata Power Solar. And now in the series, today we have a webinar titled A Step Ahead for Decentralized Solar on Domestic and Commercial Rooftops. This program is organized in association with Kerala Renewable Energy Entrepreneurs and Promoters Association, KRIPA. In the next 90 minutes, we would discuss on the drivers and barriers of distributed energy resources post-COVID-19 in our country. We have with us today think tanks from the government, industry luminaries, advisory gurus in the forum to share their thoughts. To welcome the participants and dignitaries, I cordially invite the President of Solar Energy Society of India, Mr. Prafulla Pathak. Pathak ji.
Thank you, Shivram Krishnan ji. On behalf of Solar Energy Society of India, I am very much happy to welcome all the panelists who are present here, as well as those who have joined to listen to these panelists. As introduced by Shivram Krishnan ji, Solar Energy Society of India has started the series of webinar on various topics which are related to our own, and particularly in view of the pandemic, the COVID situation, the happenings, the things which were before and what will happen to next. So on this series, we had received some queries that we need to discuss or bring together the people from the different perspectives who are related to decentralized solar systems. So on that background, we have arranged this webinar, and I'm very happy that the response received to this webinar is such a huge one that we have to increase the total number of registrations once. So we are very happy that SECI is receiving this type of response, and it's our efforts in future also, so that these type of gatherings we can bring together and we can give you authentic information about what's happening in the solar sector. The pandemic has given a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different situations we were never thought of in February or even January. So on that background, most of the people who are in the solar sector, who are in the distributed generation sector, particularly rooftop sector, they have lots and lots of queries. Like others, they also have queries that what will happen next. The supply chain from the neighboring country, will it continue? The quality, will it be same? The price, will it be same or different? If we are getting the supply from neighboring countries, do we believe on the background of pandemic? So these type of queries are there. And at the same time, there is a thought process that how to face all these things. There is one more positive thing which I want to mention here, that before pandemic, the PPE kit production in our country was very negligible. But we all raised to the situation, and now we are producing PP kits in such a large number that we are self-sustainable, as well as we are in a position to supply it to the other countries if they require. On the same note, as you have heard that government ministries are asking or requesting the manufacturers, the solar sector developers to come forward and let's face this situation and increase or enhance our production. Let's produce everything which we need for solar sector in our own country. So that is also one query in our mind, that can we achieve that? Can we go for that? So when you have these type of different queries, the best way is to bring in the people, the experts who are in that field, and let's have their discussion. In Sanskrit, there is one saying, "Vade vade jayate tattva bodha." So on that background, it means that let's bring together the experts, the people, and let's get something better for us. So on that background, we at Solar Energy Society of India, along with Kripa, invited the experts from their own field, and we are here to listen to them, that what they see in this post-pandemic situation is. So once again, I welcome you all, and we are thankful to you for accepting our invitation, and I hand over these proceedings to Sivaram Krishnaji.
Prasid, I think I am seeing a message from Jethani sir that he is not getting audio.
No, I'm not. I'm getting the audio now.
You're getting. Okay. Thanks. I think you're the next speaker. That's why. Thank you, Prafulla ji, for those kind words of welcome to the participants. Distributed solar would play the central role in our electricity network post-COVID, as you rightly said, and ensure energy security and sustainability. The four pillars of growth are technology, policy and regulations, finance, and business model. Exactly, these are the points we would be discussing today in our webinar. To open the deliberations, I respectfully invite the Director of MNRE, Mr. J.K. Jethani sir, and deliver the talk on decentralized energy resources in the country. To introduce him briefly, he handles a large portfolio in the ministry, ranging from solar off-grid programs and schemes to policy advice on a rooftop scheme. I'm not taking much time for a detailed introduction, as he's a known face in the industry. It is my pleasure to invite you, sir, to take the platform and enlighten us how the slowdown of planned capacity addition is addressed. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sivaram Krishnaji, and thank you, Mr. Pathak, for inviting me for this webinar. And every problem brings us an opportunity, because until unless there is no problem, we can't find the solution. So this also in an opportunity for us, like our PM has said, we have to be Atmanirbhar. It means we have to be self-sustainable. So to be self-sustainable, we have to work together, we have to think broad and take this problem as an opportunity to grow ourselves in a different way, in a self-sustainable way. So I'm really an advocate of the decentralized solar power, because our country is blessed with good sunshine. We are between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. So we have good sunshine all over the country. And if we go for the large solar power plants, one thing, they require the large chunk of land. Then you have to go for the rehabilitation of those people who are living in that area. You have to create evacuation system, large transmission line that has own cost, and then there are losses. If there is a cloud coverage, the whole chunk of the solar power is going out. So there are the grid balancing issues. So these are the problems with the large solar power plants. Be it, you can say that there is an economic of scale, but I don't think so there is an economic scale, because if you calculate the total cost of delivery at the point of tail end, it is around 4 rupees, not 2 rupees 50 paisa, practically saying. coming back to this decentralized solar power plants like rooftop, small power plants. So these can be installed anywhere and can cater to the load connected to nearby areas. So there is no need of large transmission lines. We can save a lot of T&D losses. For that purpose, we have issued many schemes, particularly in the off-grid sector and then decentralized sector. Rooftop is one of them. Then PM Kusum scheme is there. And beyond PM Kusum, we have also issued the guidelines for decentralized solar power plant installation by the distribution companies like Telangana, Karnataka, and Gujarat. I think they have already gone for it. Coming back to this opportunity that has been bring out by this problem of pandemic, many people have been migrated back to their own villages. So to create a livelihood for them, I think the DRE solutions can bring an opportunity in a large way. When I say DRE sector, then decentralized renewable energy sector, wherein solar covers the major part of it. Other could be small wind, biomass, or small hydro. But major part of this DRE solution lies with the solar. You can run swing machine, you can operate dairy sector, you can operate cold storage, small pumps for horticulture, battery charging. There are many things that can be done through DRE solutions for the rural livelihood. And we are soon going to bring out a concept note on these solutions very soon. And maybe we are going to provide some financial assistance for such kind of applications. Like we have this mini grids in UP and Jharkhand, where the domestic and commercial consumers are paying much more than what we can't think of it, even in the urban areas. They are paying up to 40 or 30 to 40 rupees a unit to these mini grids. One can have that how they are paying 40 rupees a unit, but this is true because for a domestic consumer they are supplying 2 bulbs, 5 watt each, and one mobile charger, say 10 watt, for 4 hours in a day, and complete for 30 days. If you calculate, it's hardly 2.5 units, and they are charging 100 rupees a month. So practically they are paying 40 rupees a unit. But villagers are ready to pay this because they get the assured power. They know that if in the evening the light is not there, the grid is not there, they can switch on these bulbs and get the good illumination, and they need not to light their candles and other things. Similarly, for economic activities, these mini grids are providing supply to the rice sellers, flour mill, and even the water pumps. And there the per unit cost is around 30 rupees. So people are ready to pay, but they need an assured supply. They don't want to rely on this unreliable grid power. So the DRE solutions are of course going to be in a big way to help the rural India, and we are going to have a concept note very soon on this. Coming to the rooftop sector is growing now. More and more distribution companies are coming forward for this rooftop, and my colleague in the ministry, Mr. Ajinder Singh, is the Deputy Secretary there. He will talk more on that. With that words, thank you, Shivrama Krishnaji and Mr. Pathak. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jadani sir. There are a lot of brighter aspects on the speech. The industry note it with happiness. I think we'll move on to the next speaker. I hope, sir, you will remain for the Q&A session.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The audience, please drop in your questions in the chat box. We will consolidate it, and at the end of the the, 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 speaker's sessions. We will attend to that. Deputy Secretary, Mr. Ajender Singh Ji handles solar rooftop projects, rooftop schemes, technical assistance for RE schemes, etc. In the ministry. We think market creation of DERs is a key issue. The proposed National Renewable Energy Policy under the proposed amendments to the Indian Electricity Act would certainly address these aspects. We would like to hear from the Honorable Deputy Secretary how we would move ahead with this objective post COVID-19. Sir, I invite you to share the platform. Ajinder Singh Ji, I think your audio is muted. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I am able to hear. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sri Ramakrishnan Ji, and for inviting for this webinar. And also congratulations that in this pandemic, you are organizing such webinars for the information of all the stakeholders in the value chain. Dr. Mr. J.K. Jethani has broadly brought out that what ministry is planning and that this is an opportunity for all of us. So I will not go in that details. I will limit myself to the rooftop solar. As all of you know that the last year, Ministry launched phase 2 of the solar rooftop program, in which major steps are that instead of SNA, now DISCOMs are the implementing agency. Because in the last year also, it was started at very late stage. Capacities sanctions were issued to all the DISCOMs who require the capacity, and 516 megawatt was the capacity which was sanctioned last year. This year also we have sanctioned 288 megawatt to all those DISCOMs which were left out in the last year, or which already have covered or installed the capacity which were allocated to them in the last year. So as on date, although ministry target is residential rooftop sector with the financial assistance, but the residential rooftop sector is only, we can say, only 10%. And other 90% is to come from institutional, commercial and industrial sectors, for which ministry works only as a facilitator. And in that chain, incentive to the DISCOM will definitely work as a catalyst, because most of the DISCOMs are apprehensive that if someone goes for rooftop, then their revenue is going to be on negative side. But now some of the DISCOMs are taking step ahead, especially we can see the DISCOM in Kerala. They are owning the program and they are coming in a big way. They have already come out with tender in the last year for all the sectors, but without subsidy. Now with the subsidy also, they are coming out. So I can only say that although this pandemic has delayed our process, delayed our timelines of achieving the target, but right now we are on the right path. The regulations, guidelines, and schemes of the ministry are in the right path for achieving our target in rooftop and decentralized solar sector. Now, I will expect from the audience that some questions are there, and I will be happy to answer without taking much time. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Ramakrishnan ji.
Thank you, Ajendra sir. Thank you very much. I hope you will stay back. And as you rightly said, most of the questions will be, the questions will be addressed particularly on the rooftop segment itself. So I request you to kindly stay back.
Yes.
We will move on to the next speaker.
Okay.
Okay. Access to finance is the most important aspect to the business. We have the next speaker, Mr. Dinesh Babu, from the leading advisory firm Ernst & Young. Mr. Dinesh is serving as the team leader of the World Bank funded SBI operated 5-year $12.93 million grid connected solar rooftop PV technical assistance program for 17 states in our country. This lending sector is seeing a shift from CapEx to OpEx model. So I hope this session would enlighten on us how World Bank scheme help business in the current scenario, and also whether banks see renewable energy as a safe place to lend. With his vast industry association, Mr. Dinesh would advise us on the different financial models for the future. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramakrishnan, for the invitation. And let me first thank Ceci for inviting to this exciting topic. I believe that you have done prior also 2 webinars successfully. So congratulations to you, and wish that you will continue for other webinars as well on other topics. So as you rightly said, we have been right now working very closely in the financing aspects of rooftop solar under this technical assistance program, because all the work that we are doing under the technical assistance program for the 17 states are towards creating an enabling ecosystem for the rooftop solar stakeholders to get the access to finance and implement the rooftop solar projects on their premises. And that includes commercial and industrial sector, and very recently the residential sector, as Mr. Ajendra ji was explaining about the MNRE program as well. So the State Bank of India, they received the $625 million from the World Bank way back in 2016, and they started operationalizing it in early, rather I would say late 2016 and early 2017. And they have been progressing well, but the financing has been limited only to the commercial and the industrial sector, largely kind of with the open policy in terms of there is no restrictions on the domestic content requirement. So from that angle, the project beneficiaries have been both CapEx and OpEx. The RESCO portfolio has been quite huge in terms of leading players getting the line of credit from State Bank of India. But at the same time, I would say there is also equal number of projects in terms of the capacity that has been sanctioned by SBA for the CapEx sector also. Most of these CapEx borrowers are existing State Bank of India borrowers, and a lot of projects have been sanctioned to them also under this concessional loan. It's close to around between the current rate is at about 8%, but earlier when it started, it was 9.5%. So it's a concessional loan. Sub 10 is quite an attractive rate of interest for borrowers to borrow the loan from State Bank of India. So that is one aspect of what is ongoing right now. But right now, what we are also discussing is to explore another concessional line of credit for $245 million. That would be largely and exclusively for the residential sector. And again, the World Bank is in close discussions with State Bank of India to introduce this line of credit, and MNRE will be supporting it as well as they did for the commercial and industrial sector. And this would immediately help the current program under the MNRE phase 2, where all the states are implementing the tender under the sanction capacity, as Jindarji was saying. So close to around the 700 plus megawatt has been already allocated under the phase 1 of the program, and under the phase 2 very recently there has been new allocations as well. So these are the two areas where the access to financing are being addressed by the World Bank and State Bank of India. The other areas which are now under discussion are the following. Number one is the credit guarantee mechanism. So the credit guarantee mechanism has been discussed for long for the rooftop solar sector, but we don't have any exclusive program that is being operationalized at this point of time. It is even this was discussed pre-COVID, so it is not a new topic. And this credit guarantee mechanism will largely and again exclusively address the MSME sector, so that the kind of portfolio of the RESCO projects are not limited only to the large RESCO players, but also the MSME can develop the capability of becoming a RESCO based on their past experience in the electricity business or any other business. And we see a lot of interest very recently in the RESCO tender for Chhattisgarh as well, where there is no subsidy, but there's a lot of interest from the MSME segment who wanted to kind of submit the bids under the RESCO. So the credit guarantee mechanism is an interesting piece. I would personally bet on it, that it would improve the access to the financing for the MSME sector. There are three different models that have been discussed in India. One was already kind of inked between MNRE and SBI, with IREDA being the host for such a mechanism, but it is yet to be operationalized. And the second version is what under our program, we had developed one framework, and it was released early this year, where we are again discussing with the World Bank to see whether a $250 million credit guarantee mechanism could be launched for the rooftop solar projects. So that's the kind of the next aspect of the financing, which World Bank and MNRE and SBA are trying to work and implement. In general, as such, we feel that for the residential sector, because right now the focus is on residential sector, because we always say the commercial and industrial sector is the low-hanging fruit, but the residential sector is going to be extremely difficult because of the distributed nature of the projects and very, very small projects, 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts. So will there be a kind of a game for the big players to enter into the residential sector? But having said that, in the recent tender in Delhi, we have seen Amplus being a big winner in few categories. And Ritu will comment on that as well. So there are opportunities again for the large players to understand what will be the capacity aspect of it, what is the scale. And at the same time, we see a lot of MSME players are also bidding for the capex part of it for the residential tender. So this only is part of the kind of we can say the MNRE incentive scheme for 40% is the maximum subsidy you can get for the 3 kilowatt segment. But what happens to the balance 60% of for the consumer? As for you and me as a resident, how can we go and get the loan for such projects? So from that angle, we are trying to see how the banks are trying to engage with the borrowers for providing the loans. In few cases, the banks already have a plan to extend the loan under the home loan category, so that the same rate of interest could be provided to them. In few cases, they are trying to give it under the home loan renovation scheme. And in few banks, they have a specific scheme for agricultural pumps as well as for the residential rooftop solar. But as such, we don't see a standardized product across the banks. So that will be the next important area, because given that 500 to 700 megawatt has been already allocated by MNRE for the entire country, we have to see how that deployment could take place, and for which we need access to 60% of the debt. And we assume that in many cases, the promoter will put their own money, but not in all the cases. So we have to also try to unlock that kind of an access, that kind of a potential, so that we have more financing available by several banks. And we are in continuous discussion with the MNRE also to sensitize the bankers. There is a discussion to convene all the bankers and then re-emphasize the need for financing for the KUSUM projects under the KUSUM, as well as under the rooftop solar program. This was done by MNRE quite effectively 4 to 6 years ago when the phase 1 was launched. And a lot of banks officially announced that they are going to lend for the decentralized projects like these. So that is the area where we would like to really work, because we see that the renewable energy sector is already classified under the priority sector lending. The kind of limits for the individual borrowers up to 10 lakhs, very good. Based on that, definitely the access should be available. And for the MSME guys, maybe 15 crores is also adequate for certain portfolio management. But we feel that the priority sector lending for renewable energy is not kind of implemented in full scale or to the meaning of what it has been destined to. So from that angle also, we are developing a white paper for submission to MNRE, where we would like to see that the priority sector lending kind of limits are increased, number one. And number two, they are complied with by the banks by not deviating from it when paying a penalty or trying to meet other priority sector lending targets, but not the renewable energy. So those are the couple of recommendations we are discussing in the white paper. The other aspect, which we all know, that will be my last point, is about the kind of decoupling financing renewable energy with the infrastructure lending. This has been discussed for many years now. And last year, when the Minister of Power, the Honorable Minister, Mr. R.K. Singh, when he wrote this request to RBI, and RBI replied as well that the banks have started making a kind of a separate allocation for financing renewable energy. We feel, rather, at least I personally feel that this could be further kind of made as a mandate for all the banks, so that the banks decouple the financing of renewable energy from the thermal sector, largely due to the reason that the thermal NPAs are very high. And therefore, by decoupling it, the renewable energy financing will not suffer. So those are the initial points which I thought I will share with you, 3 or 4 major issues. But we would like to continue to understand the evolving residential financing market. Amplus and other players are also bringing very new products. Very recently, another developer also brought up easy EMI financing projects also. Therefore, the schemes are coming up, but the awareness and the engagement with the consumer is very important. And the RESCOs, the OPEX model is also being tried in the residential sector, as again Ajendra ji was saying, in Kerala. Now it is being tried in Chandigarh and in Delhi as well. So the RESCO financing for residential sector will be another new game, which we have to see how it evolves and how best the returns are coming up for the RESCOs. So these are very exciting times for the decentralized solar sector. And I wish all the best for the stakeholders who are involved in this journey. And I'm also part of this journey, so I'll be more than happy to learn and benefit from other panelists as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Ramakrishnan.
Thank you, Dinesh ji. It was a very promising talk. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions waiting for you. Particularly, one important aspect is the credit guarantee mechanism, which you just mentioned for the MSME sector to operate under a RESCO model. I'm sure. I think at the end of the session there will be a couple of questions on that.
Sure. Thank you.
Kindly stay online, sir.
I will.
Next on the line is Ms. Srimati Ritu Lal, Senior Vice President and Head, Institutional Relations of Amplus Solar. Amplus Solar is one of the largest RE generators in our country, and Ritu heads the solar business with an impressive footprint of 600 megawatt distributed solar assets spread over 275 locations, covering 180 plus commercial and industrial consumers. Quite an impressive portfolio. She would talk now, how is distributed solar penetration managed in view of a financial slowdown in the market, and suggestions on what more needs to be done in that area. I welcome you, madam.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Solar Energy Society of India, for inviting me to this platform. And thanks always to Mr. Babu for Dinesh has really set the context and given a lot of points that I was also going to suggest. But addressing this issue of what happens to further growth and penetration of distributed and rooftop solar in view of the current situation where we are in it's beyond a recession. We are into an economic contraction. What that is leading to is liquidity issues all around. There is no entity that has gone unscathed, from the largest to the smallest. For some, it has been, unfortunately, as for individuals, along with businesses, some have already not survived. So there are many such instances of especially MSMEs that have had to fold up already. Continuity, again, for many will be in question, including some of the larger players. And we worryingly see, some of those, especially those larger companies, some of them unicorns, which were using, the Zomatos and Swiggy, Uber, the tech-enabled platforms. We see, 1/3, 1/4 employees being asked to go. So even for the larger players right now, it's not a certainty. Yes, with more established companies, say the FMCG kind of companies, pharmaceuticals, and certain other industries, they have more staying power. So maybe they can tide over better. But the next 18 to 24 months, I don't think anybody can predict how things will pan out. How bad it will it be less severe than we expect? So that is something that we'll have to, just experience as we go along. We forecast to the best of our ability. So there is so much uncertainty that it is really difficult to understand how to step forward. There is the lack of liquidity. There is the need for savings any which way that you can save any amount of money. You must do it now. So these two factors may, on an industrial, commercial, and even those MSMEs that will make it, may boost solar, especially rooftop solar. Because earlier you were negotiating longer, harder, trying to see what was happening. Maybe if you wait out another 4 months, solar tariffs will drop further. So, let's not tie up now. So that dithering which was happening, I expect will go away. And those who are serious about the need to save and the need to go green, so will close deals faster. OPEX model will be preferred by many because liquidity is going to be a big, big issue. So while that may give companies like us who operate primarily on the OPEX space some kind of a fillip, it comes with its own catch. One is that overall, and we're seeing that as a country as well, credit has taken a beating. So if the credit rating of the country takes a beating, there will be a credit issue with all the entities within the country as well, as they face this uncertainty. For OPEX, the credit of a client is very important because, these are long-term contracts going up to 25 years. And we only recover our money depending on where we have set up it several years before the payback period hits us. And our revenues really depend on timely payments month after month, every month for up to 25 years. So we look at credit with a very, very fine mesh. Here we are going to see more opportunity, but the overall average credit of my consumer, of my client, is coming down. So I have to factor that in. Will that be factored in through a higher tariff? That is one possibility. The second factor that comes in is easy capital availability, and Dinesh has already talked a lot about this aspect, about making money available to OPEX organizations to grow their business. Amplus, being one of the larger and older organizations, is in a better position to generate and raise capital. But this industry is again very diverse, distributed solar. It has many parts to it, for people who are working in pumps, to people who work exclusively residential, to the many component suppliers, to small EPC companies. So it's a very, very, very diverse industry. And it does not help if only, a few of the big names like us are able to secure credit and capital. Capital availability has to be more widespread for us to see real growth. Now, a lot of the issues that we face were there even before COVID. So all of that we are facing is not because of the current scenario. These have been ongoing pain points, perhaps made even more visible and due to what we see currently. The credit enhancement for MSMEs remains something that we really look forward to, because we understand the importance of MSMEs in this country. And unfortunately, on the OPEX model, there are very few medium scale companies that we have been able to serve. Credit becomes a big issue. Size becomes an issue. And I know that of late, there have been many attempts to aggregate demand. So that helps, demand aggregation helps. And if we get to any form of credible, easy to work with solution for credit enhancement, that should really see a pickup in this market, which is crying out for viable, economically viable solar solutions. And today is largely left out. A few of them use the CapEx model, but as liquidity becomes more of an issue, I think CapEx is something which not too many people will be able to go for today. Then there is the residential market, which is really in its fledgling position. This is the only segment today that we give the CapEx option to. We tried for years again to figure out a way to get some kind of a credit enhancement scheme for the residential segment to be able to serve them better. But that was not happening. So Amplus, we created an entire brand and a separate team that we call Homescape, and they cater to the residential market. Even here, we've tried to offer different products. We've tried to offer a differentiated product, which is a little more expensive, which helps people, gives them a pergola structure that gives, actually, they don't give up the space while installing solar. They get an extra space that they can utilize within their houses. I expect to see some sort of a slowdown, unfortunately, in the residential segment, because they will be CapEx driven. And even with the subsidies, if there is a slowdown overall, people may have to, even if it is giving them savings, the capacity to shell out a huge amount of CapEx at the onset may be an issue. So let's see how this goes. But I anticipate that there might be a slower offtake than we had envisioned. What can we do to make things better? One, and I'm so pleased by the comments of Mr. Ajinder Singh and Mr. Jethani before him. And I must say that MNRE has always been very supportive, but I think even within the ministry, the push for rooftop solar is gaining momentum, and one hopes it stays this way, because policy is very, very critical for the growth of this segment. We need to think what happens is, the policies that are framed in the country, they focus largely on the utility scale solar, because that's where the volume is. 90% of the volume today is in the utility scale. That is what is also growing faster. And rooftop, all the others, they just kind of have to go with that flow. So if you have any kind of a duty, whether it is a safeguard or whether it is a basic customs duty, utility scale is actually not impacted. So it's not benefiting, you put in that safeguard duty hoping to benefit domestic manufacturing. Nothing really worked at the cell level in domestic manufacturing, because the greatest amount of growth came from utility segment. Utility segment, you have a pass-through clause. So it does not matter to them whether they are importing at a higher duty if they are able to pass through. Even today, the government talks of grandfathering bids in the utility segment. That is not going to happen in the rooftop space, because the rooftop PPAs are largely to private parties. So how does the government grandfather such a bid? So any impact that they have on duties and changes in such things has a very severe impact on how we are able to operate. As it is, we are small. As it is, we are kind of struggling to grow. We are at about 12% of the national target. And the fact that policies do not take into account the impact specifically on rooftop segment is hurting us. So I'm happy to see that now MNRE has taken note of these issues, and hopefully they will look at the impact on all segments, including rooftop, when we go along. A couple more things that I wanted to say. Again, discoms have started to hurt from rooftop solar, especially in the commercial and industrial space. That has resulted in states revising their solar policies to make it virtually impossible for rooftop solar to grow in their territories. So our recommendation here is, one, to create a climate that supports rooftop solar. So please do not put caps and restrictions, 500 megawatt, 2 megawatt. All caps and restrictions should be purely on technical grounds. Because I know maybe there is this wish that, two large players should not corner a substation capacity, but that is not happening today. So in fact, the one or two people who are saying I want solar, even they are being restricted to less than maybe 30 or 50% of their potential. So until a state meets its rooftop capacity, I think all policies should foster the growth of solar. We recognize the impact from loss of cross subsidy on discoms, and we want to assure discoms that, and the government, we do not believe in the current mechanism. We believe it is critical for discoms to be onboarded. They're a very important stakeholder in India's solar story. And we have given various suggestions to MNRE on how discoms need not lose from rooftop solar, but how they can also gain from rooftop solar and also commercially. One of the things that the government is doing going forward, if the direct benefit transfer to subsidized customers comes through, and the discoms are at liberty to charge the full tariff from everybody they supply power to, this cross-subsidy surcharge issue will disappear. The second issue that discoms face on collections, we're talking of prepaid meters, so that also will largely disappear. That will leave the third pain point, which is on losses due to infrastructure, etc. But at least two of the three major pain points go away, which then does not, make discoms struggle so much with the revenue on the commercial and industrial area. A feed-in tariff, and I saw one chat box here about the feed-in tariff. Yes, gross metering on a feed-in tariff will work very well. The question is what that feed-in tariff needs to be. If that feed-in tariff is going to be the price of the utility scale bid or 10% more than that, that is not going to work. But if that feed-in tariff is what it costs the discom to supply power after adding in all the costs, then that is going to make sense. So there what will happen is if the discom is selling at what its average cost of supply is, then they will save on every unit of solar that they buy, because they sell at higher than that. So if the ACOS is about 6 rupees and the tariff is about 8 rupees, then for every unit of solar that is generated in the territory, there is about a 2 rupee saving. Over and above, let's give them all the RPOs, unless there is an obligated entity. Let's say that all the solar which is generated, the RPOs go to the discoms. For the residential segment, what we want to say is move away from capex subsidy and move to generation-based incentives. Two things will happen. One, there will be an onus to put in higher quality of plants that ensure generation is optimum across the life of the project. And second, the outflow from the government side will not be lump sum or over 2-3 years, but this will also be spread out at least over 10+ years. So they can manage that capital outflow better. I think with that, I've said a lot, and maybe if there are questions, we'll take them later.
Thank you, Ritu. There were a lot of interesting points to be addressed. I think the best points were directly shot to the ministry. It is true that discoms also should get a level playing field. Then only a win-win situation can happen. Let's see that more on the question and answer round session. We have a couple of speakers more waiting. This webinar is being hosted by SECI, partnering with Kerala Renewable Energy Entrepreneurs and Promoters Association. This is one of the oldest trade body in the renewable sector in the whole country, formed way back in 2005. KRIPA's initiatives are both in technical and commercial, and they are appreciated by the statutory bodies in Kerala. It is supported by the authorities of Kerala. Today we have with us the Honorable Secretary of KRIPA, who will share with us his views on the associations in the aspects of Make in India, hybrid solution, and MSME support, etc., during the COVID time. We welcome Mr. CM Burgess. Sir, please take the platform.
Thank you, Suryangash-ji. Thank you, thank you, Pathak-ji and Shashi for giving us an opportunity to represent Kriva here. As I represent the Kerala Renewable Energy Entrepreneurs and Promoters Association, let me bring in some concerns of our entrepreneurs in Kerala, especially the MSMEs. As each and every one of us knows, MSME being the backbone of Indian industry with the 29% of the GDP and 11 crores workforce. MSMEs were stressed even pre-COVID. With the COVID, the MSMEs are torn apart. In fact, MSMEs in renewable energy, we can say they're all in ICU. The help extended by Government of India in terms of extending loans, moratorium, or help up to certain extent, but not much, as we can see, situation is getting still badly. As we are finding the economy is on recession, the orders from the private sector also is going to be less and less. So what we can do, some of our suggestions to the government, especially the MNRE, at this point of time is, so there are orders, CFA orders passing through discoms. And one of the main issues we found, comparing with the nodal agencies earlier times, now the discoms, whenever it is being done, the eligibility cap is gone up. And when we say the MSMEs in India, 95% of the are micro industries. Only 5% is small and medium. And these micro industries will not be in a position to meet this eligibility of higher capping of higher bidding volume and as well as the higher financial eligibilities. So please take it with the discoms to bring it down to a par level with micro industries you can participate. And also there are concessions eligible for the MSMEs as per the MSME ministry norms, like 25% of the bid should be earmarked for the MSMEs. EMD, tender fee exemption, security deposit, etc. should be exempted for MSME. This should be made available for MSMEs to tide over the COVID period as well as post-COVID period. And in fact, unless otherwise, if you don't increase it 25% to somewhat like 50%, it will be difficult for the MSMEs in this sector to sustain. And further on hybrid solar power systems, we all know the future of solar is hybrid. As a percentage of solar is increasing more and more. Grid stability is possible only with the storage, either by pumped hydro or with the battery storage. If you look at some of the states where the import is big, the evening load is big, especially states like Kerala, where 70% of the electricity is still imported. And the evening peak load is very high. This is a place where hybrid can play some relief to the peak load, ease the peak load. So if MNRE supports, the hybrid schemes are implemented, the savings from the peak load easing, this can be easily implemented. So this is one of the suggestions to MNRE look into. And to the last point, the Make in India. So it is many years we are all talking about Make in India, but now this is the right time. We have to step into. With the 137 crores of population in India, with such a large market, so much of resources, we can definitely be the manufacturing hub, powerhouse of electronic industry, renewable energy industry, and so many things. So once it is structured, just like we had the automobile industry few years for the time now, definitely in the coming few years, our Indian inverter industry, which is mostly imported now, it will be in India, definitely. So what we need is local support, R&D support, incentivize it till the industry is getting matured. And please be reminded, the products will not be in par with the MNCs in the begin with. It will be a medium viability products. That is true with every company, everywhere in the world. And moreover, we need more and more test centers across India, every states, so that the equipments what we have manufactured here should be tested here. And to support MSMEs, again, we request the testing fees for the first few years should be free of cost. And these things are done, definitely we can be a powerful industry in this area with a lot of MSMEs still coming up, and each and every one of us be happy within the next 5 years with more and more renewable energy sources. And one positive things what we found during COVID will be, COVID has learned or COVID has pointed out the importance of sustainable energy, combating global warming. So naturally, there's an indirect marketing for the renewable energy. So once the COVID situation improved, market will come up. Please support MSMEs to come along with. Thank you.
Thank you, Varghese ji. That was the voice of industry. Kindly stay back online. We have the last speaker of the day. Mr. Randeep Bora is the next speaker of the day. Randeep is the Vice President of Sun Source Energy, which has a large presence in the Indian distributed energy resource market with a strong solar portfolio of over 200 megawatt. Randeep would delve into the evolving rooftop models, which is seeing a shift towards hybrid systems with storage. Many states have liberalized the regulations to accommodate evolving technologies. Let's listen to his views and suggestions on that. Welcome, Randeep ji.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiva Ramakrishna ji. I think most of the interesting points have been discussed and the challenges have been identified and discussed in general. But I would take back and like to compare first the Indian scenario with the global market, and then maybe we'll also touch upon how we are evolving as a country and what we can learn from the various other advanced economies where energy storage has become one of the key ways of doing business. So where we stand now is that globally, the decentralized energy system or the distributed energy system, the market is around 210, 250 gigawatt type. And in the next 5 years, we see that market will grow up to around it will grow by another 2.5 times. It will reach around 550 gigawatt globally. And these markets will be led by China, US, and Australia, Germany, and Japan. Germany, we already know, is it's a developed market. The key drivers in these markets, as we see, is primarily the FITs that has been there, the feed-in tariffs. Whereas in India, we had a different kind of a model where we had gone ahead with subsidies, capital subsidies, which are very difficult to come by, and people have not been able to access the subsidies easily. I would say it's there, but the access and delays add up to a lot of cost. So for me, there are five key drivers of this the distributed decentralized market. One is obviously the cost. Cost, when we compare, India is at par. Today, we have seen multiple tenders where the capex has come down significantly. The cost, we are at par. Second is the policy direction on decentralized systems. The policy is clear, but the implementation is not till date. I would say the policy directives from MNRE and the rest of the states are pretty clear. But in general, since we are trying to achieve the 275 gigawatt number, we are somehow still lagging behind in implementation of the rooftop projects, which is still, like today, as per the Bridge to India numbers, we are still at around 5.5 gigawatt vis-a-vis a target of around 40 gigawatt. Obviously, that number won't be achievable by 2022, but even 50% of that will be pretty difficult to achieve. Another point is the non-economic barriers, the kind of what you say, the application processes, the tender specifications, the standards, the testing labs. All those kinds of things are also critical for the success of the DRD segment. The fourth factor is the financing, the debt finance. Since we know the costs are there, the debt finance is still not readily available. And the next will be obviously the market reforms that we need. Because going ahead, I think peer-to-peer transactions or the blockchain technologies, which some of the states, for example, UP had mentioned in their solar policy that they will introduce blockchain technologies. These kind of technologies are already there in last 2-3 years in Germany and various other countries where you can openly source power, but there are a lot of regulatory hurdles. So what are the two key regulatory hurdles that you see? So for me, as we stand, we are talking about the Electricity Act as well as the National Tariff Amendment to the National Tariff Regulations. So the two factors in these two regulations, what we see is one is is the reduction of cross subsidy. Today, as you see, the Indian market, the residential sector pays the lowest tariffs. So once and vis-a-vis US, where the residential tariffs are much higher than the industrial customers. So there is a discourse. So once this cross subsidy goes away, obviously the residential tariffs have to come up, and automatically these projects will be more and more viable. Without economics, the residential sector cannot do that well compared to the CNI segment. The second most critical point is the open access. Like even for a blockchain or the CNI segment, all these technologies to come in, the open access allowance, which the minister has also said, and the various policies have already recommended that these policies should come in. So open access allowance of open access within a limited time frame, which was there in the Electricity Act 2003, has not been implemented into true spirit across states. So that if that happens, if these two policy changes are taken into account, then obviously it will make a huge change. So now coming into the market ahead. So what we see is that today, when I compare, we are already doing a couple of very interesting projects for SECI, 1 megawatt in Kaza with storage, and another in Lakshadweep of around 2.5 megawatt hour with a 2 megawatt hour battery for the 4 islands in Lakshadweep. So when you talk of these projects, these are small distributed islands where we are putting a kind of a microgrid kind of a system where we are supplying lithium-ion batteries and supplying it to the grid. So how do you see this market? So we see that definitely today, like for example, in Kolkata, there was a recent article which came up after the Amphan happened, the cyclone. Across Kolkata, there was no electricity for at least 2 to 3 days. Vis-a-vis in Sundarbans, which has around 7,000 houses running on distributed energy, they were up and running in next 5 to 6 hours. So those are kind of the examples which gives us that hope that distributed solar and with systems with batteries are the future, and costs are coming down significantly. If I specifically talk about the cost, so what we see is that today at a larger scale, definitely the numbers are there. But since we are talking of smaller systems, once that market develops, the more and more technology suppliers as well as the battery manufacturers are looking at India as a very potential market. And they see that along with the EV market, the battery storage, stationary storage market will also develop significantly. And it has already developed, I would say. Today, typically for an industrial customer, for example, if I say a customer, today in most of the industrial zones, the power situation has significantly improved for the CNI segment. 5 years down the line, in places like Gurgaon in the northern part of India, there were at least 6 hours of power cuts during the summer months. That power cut has come down to 2 hours. So now if I want to replace my entire DG sets with a battery, lithium-ion battery, is it possible? So I would say it is very much possible today, because anyways for diesel you are paying around 15, 16 to 17, 18 rupees. Whereas I have evaluated those numbers and I may be able to provide power on a long-term PPA basis at around say 10 to 11 rupees, which will be much cheaper for a 2-hour backup. So when we now compare, we are at a level where we are competing with the commercial tariffs in all the malls in most of the urban cities are paying around 12, 13 rupees. So now, and there are power cuts. So if you want to now replace, today, if you ask me, can you replace and make it viable as well with lithium-ion batteries? The answer is definitely yes. Can you do it for domestic? I think the time is, we need some more time because unlike the European market or the Australian market, which has developed significantly, the Indian market still has been subsidized. The domestic market has been subsidized significantly, because of which the costs are very low and we are not able to compete. Like the battery energy storage will not be able to compete for the domestic market purely without any subsidy or anything. As on date, I'm not counting on subsidy, because subsidy driven projects, I think, should not be the way forward. I think it is only a makeshift arrangement. Subsidies eventually should move away and it has to be a market driven thing. So, and automatically things will flow and people will come up and take up solar on their own, like the CNI segment. Now you do not have to, earlier we used to push for the CNI segment. Our push have to put more foot soldiers. But now there are inquiries which come up on a regular basis. Somebody, for example, Tata Group, after installing one plant, they have installed multiple plants. Similarly is the case with all the leading blue chip companies or the leading companies who have understood the value of solar. So that has to flow to the residential as well. For that to happen, it has to be a market driven thing. Tariffs, once the residential tariffs are, the cost of the goes away, those numbers will automatically go up. It will not happen overnight. Obviously, those distribution reforms and the Electricity Amendment Act, all those things will play a big part, and eventually it will happen. So once that happens, tariffs are, say, from 4 rupees in the lowest bracket, it goes up to 6 rupees, and the higher bracket goes up to 9 rupees. Obviously, then you can, and you have TOD tariffs. Then people will look at shifting their TOD time of the higher tariff basis to the I would say, or the peak hour to the energy storage, and then we can integrate with the grid. So as we see that, as like the advanced economies, India will flow into those lines, but the crux of it is the discoms. So we know that for the technology to happen, we to have blockchain and various other innovative solutions. The products is available, but our distribution transformers are not able to communicate with each other. For example, in Delhi, it is possible because it is privatized purely, and Tata Power or the BSES, whoever are the major distribution companies, they are upgrading their system on a regular basis. But that is not the case with the rest of the discoms across the country, which the Electricity Amendment Act wants to address through various distribution reforms of having franchisee model or upgrading the systems. So once those things happen, automatically we can move towards the storage solutions, because what happened in California in 2017, people already, there were around 1 million customers with rooftop in just one state, 1 million with the 10 lakhs. So now what they have done, they want to now move away from the grid, because they want to be independent and they want reliability, because the cyclonic systems are very active, and the grid stability is also a very major concern with more and more penetration of renewable. If you want to really achieve 275 or 500 gigawatt by 2030, all those factors have to be taken into account, and we have to plug in all the channels so that we can integrate distributed solar, wind, hydro, and all the other forms of energy together, and be as much reliable as we can. Maybe that's it from my side. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Indeeb. I think our Shivramakrishnan, our moderator, is offline. I will request Mr. Patak Saab to or Prasid. Patak Saab, he's here. Please take up the question and answer session, please.
Yeah, there are some few questions. I think one or two questions that has been answered by Mr. Babu, but this one question is from Mr. Anil. It is for MNRE. He says it is very difficult to get loans for rooftop solar for customer. What help we get from MNRE or any other government's agencies for getting a loan for renewable energy? Hello? Ajender Singh ji, can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, yes, I am able to hear you. But I was thinking that Mr. Dinesh Babu will reply because he has spoken in length on the loan being provided by SBI for C&I and another credit for the residential sector is in the queue, and expected that in next few months, I can't say weeks, next few months, it will be available for residential sector consumers also. So, Mr. Dinesh will be able to tell you that is there any issue in getting the loan from SBI?
Okay, thank you. Another question is from Mr. Sivdasan. It's an interesting question. When can we stop the subsidy regime? Hello? I think the questions are not much, and even Prasid has announced to the participants, if they have any queries or questions, then they can write to director@scsi.in. I request Ajender Singh ji, if you want to say something, then we can conclude this.
I was not able to hear the last query because I got offline. Can you repeat it?
It was an interesting thing. When the subsidy regime will end?
Hello. Yes.
When the subsidy regime will end?
I think again there is an issue of this connectivity. As far as regime of subsidies, there it is going to be end by 2022. After that, there is no subsidy.
Okay. Other than that, you heard about all the participants. If you want to make any comment, then you can say from your side, and then we'll close this session.
Yeah, I would make request to all the developers in the field of rooftop solar that, that there is a spin portal of MNRE where all the major developers who have been the channel partners or have been engaged with the implementing agency in the state or the SECI, they also have user ID and password and have freedom to enter the details of all the plants, solar plants, rooftop plants, which have been commissioned without any subsidy also, because we don't have actual figures. On the spin portal, it is hardly 2 gigawatt, whereas the market says it is around 4.5 gigawatt to 5.5 gigawatt. And mostly the remaining capacity of 2 gigawatt or maybe 3 gigawatt is from the non-subsidized sector. So I would make a request to all the developers that if they can make the entries on the spin portal of all the commissioning that they have done without subsidy, because subsidized plants, they usually do it. But for non-subsidized, because of there is no practice of registration of channel partners, it has been discontinued. So that government can have a actual figures that how much rooftop solar have been installed. It will facilitate in planning of any further guidelines or policies that will be useful for us. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. I saw Mr. Jethani also joined. So does he have any comments or anything from his side? Hello? Is Mr. Shivram Krishnan there?
Yeah, I am back. I am back.
Okay, please take over.
I missed quite a few important minutes. I don't know what has happened in between.
No, you have to conclude. If Mr. Jethani is there, you can have a comment from him and then you can conclude.
All right. I think to summarize the day's proceedings, all the speakers were unanimous in suggesting adoption of necessary measures to meet the contingency, which is now coming up in the market. Particularly, the COVID impact is so severe. The MSME sector is really reeling, and the industry has voiced their concern on that. So this forum is submitting a proposal to the ministry that something really needs to be done to the micro, small, and medium sector. Particularly, the micro sector is too badly hit. The demand aggregation, as somebody has pointed out earlier, that Randeep ji, I think, he was mentioning that the larger companies would sustain, but the hit is going to be on the smaller sector, which would not really meet the qualifying criteria many times stipulated by the DISCOMs. They just demand, they aggregate the demand, and the demand is being taken away by the larger companies. So local denial of local employment, denial of participation opportunity for the local companies are very crucial. I think we are facing this in Kerala. Right now, the KSEB program is on. We have really faced this. None of the MSME companies are able to participate. So our appeal, I think through this forum, I am personally appealing also to the Deputy Secretary Aljinder Singh ji. Kindly look into this aspect. I think the KSEB tender is still, I think it was today and got postponed further. There is enough time to accommodate the requests of these smaller section of the industry. We need employment. Actually, there is a denial of employment rather, and many people are returning from Gulf also. So I would request you to take up this further. On the other points, like the financing, there was quite an...
Ramakrishnan ji, can I make a request that if Association of Kerala can make a request and send it to MNRE, then we will be in a better position to take up the issue with the Kerala Electricity Distribution Company.
Sir, I think
it has been already sent. Few times it is sent, sir.
Few times it was addressed to you, and I think, I believe you have acknowledged also. Anyway, we will resend it once again. Kindly look into that.
If it is missed by me, then definitely I will search and take it up with
No problem, sir. I think I am requesting Mr. Verghese, our secretary, to resend it at the earliest. Since the time is still there. This is one aspect. I think it's not only for Kerala. I am making this request on behalf of all MSMEs in the country. But right now, in front of us, the issue is from Kerala. And another aspect of the small sector, which Dinesh ji has pointed out, is that the home loans for domestic RE, particularly for the solar rooftop power plants, there is very limited access. Banks are not that very keen. Of course, the lending is already there, but that is restricted probably to the larger industries. The small scale is not enjoying the real fruits of your efforts. May I request, I think I am not seeing Dinesh ji online. I hope he is hearing this. A proper advisory should go from you, sir, to see that the access is extended to the smaller players also, to the larger development of.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, point well taken, sir. That's the reason why I and Ritu are always batting for the MSME. So we will definitely try to empower and also engage with the bankers, because the major challenge is that the bankers are not fully aware of such schemes, and they are not able to process a loan because either the size is too low or they are not aware of the whole process. So we are training a lot of SBA officers, and we will keep this in mind, and we will definitely emphasize in terms of giving access to the MSME lending.
May I request you to organize a few capability building alliance programs, which I think it used to be the earlier CBA programs.
Mobile.
Correct, sir. So we are doing a lot of capacity building programs, as I mentioned to you. So we have trained the SBA officers and the utility engineers and entrepreneurs and the trainers as well. So we will be continuing to do so, but because of the COVID situation, we are yet to restructure the mode of training. Mostly, we will be doing the rest of the year in terms of online training. But moving forward, based on the situation from next year, we will bring back the physical form of training of all the stakeholders.
Fine. Sir, one last thing to you. I heard in your speech that 245 million USD exclusively for residential sector. Is there a time frame for this?
So as Rajendra ji was mentioning, it will be in a few months, not in weeks. So we are as we speak in the process of seeing the World Bank, MNRE and SBI trying to conclude the whole discussions. And due to the current situation, there is some time being taken up. So there is no firm timeline for launching, but it will take a couple of months at least or more to see the overall result of this launch.
All right. Good, sir. Thank you. Anyway, before I conclude, I just wanted to share a few observations regarding the regulation part. In our state, Kerala, recently the regulatory commission has come up with very progressive steps to enable the rooftop adoption. One of them is that at up to 20 kilowatt of capacity, there need not be any special restriction on the capping on the feeder side, feeder capacity. So this is one major step, and further the limit of feeder was raised up to 75% of the transformer DT or the feeder. So these are a few progressive steps. But on the other side, the news is not that very optimistic. In our neighboring state, Karnataka, in fact, recently they have adopted a step that the banking system is disallowed. Only the wheeling is allowed. So the banking facility is withdrawn for rooftop. These kind of irrational steps are also being taken by the regulator, which I request the ministry also should look into the implementing aspects, which will enable the regulators to support these policies, your programs, because the programs may be good, but really they are not able to get adopted in the because of local policy constraints. So I think, was there any question? Is there any question? Q&A? I don't see much of questions. Most of them are. One of the question is that is there any subsidy going to come for solar water heaters? I'm not sure, sir. Any comment on that? Is there any subsidy going to come for solar water heaters?
Mr. Jethani can respond on this. I don't have any idea.
Okay. Okay. There's another question. Okay, sir.
As far as right now, Ministry of Finance has already cleared that in the current year, there will be no new schemes. Only ongoing scheme will continue due to financial constraint on account of COVID. So on that behalf, I can say at least in the near future, it is not going to happen.
In your idea, you have any idea that any policies on the provision for solar rooftop for defense sector or provision of microgrids for defense services? There is a question on the screen.
Grid for solar defense, I think I am unable to respond to this because it is the largest questions being dealt by some other division.
All right. I think we are dot on time. No further questions are seen on the screen. Thank you all participants and panelists for their contribution. We would like to keep, Ceci would like to keep this dialogue and these kind of interactions with the industry and other stakeholders. We hope to see more and more meetings like this in the series, which is going to be announced shortly. Thank you all once again.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
everyone. Bye-bye.